And I had a pretty good idea of what it was all about. There were no surprises to me. I remember feeling so sorry for a couple of my classmates who arrived at the college wearing hats, and they had to wear those hats all through till we were issued uniforms. You've heard that from everybody, how we used to press our blues, didn't you?
Well, we've heard of putting them
we wet the seams, then put them under the bottom sheet. But I not only had to do my own, but do my seniors. And then it was a drop, who was a senior drop. And so I had his pants as well, so I put a 2-inch thick pad of pants under me. And we didn't have to polish our seniors' boots, though. That was considered demeaning to do somebody else's boots. You could do everything else for them practically, right, but not know. So we all did our own boots. Ravelli was at 6, and we had to immediately go in, dunk into a cold bath, and line up under the clock. And when the clock hit 6, we chant Ravelli, 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 and then we dash into the duty senior's room to report wet. And he'd reach out and feel, usually 2 or 3, we'd push the ones who had actually gone into the bath to the front. And
anything like?
Well, in our days, it was a review put on by the recruit class. And we would red costumes or cobble up costumes, and we would do maybe a dozen skits, some of which were just pure comedy, but most of which were taking off the idiosyncrasies of staff members, quite cruelly sometimes, or seniors. And we had a lot of fun in retaliating at some of our seniors that way. But then it was supposed to be competitive, and the cakes were the prizes to be given to the group that did the best skits. Harold Davis, one of my neighbors, was an ex-cadet, so he supplied these scrapings. And we stretched a tarpaulin, a big, huge tarpaulin, maybe 2 or 3 laced together, and then all these tannery scrapings underneath that. Oh yes, we were, in those days, one of the ways to get into the college if you couldn't read or write was to be a really good hockey player. And as I mentioned, playing football helped to get me in over the French hurdle. But my roommate, Frank Peeble, who was killed in the Air Force, was a really good really good hockey player, but he was completely useless on the parade square. In fact, I was the hockey manager in my senior year, and it was our turn to go down to West Point. But the commandant got the idea that he phoned the West Point commandant and said, "Do you have any objection to our people coming in uniform, because you're neutral and we're at war?" And the stupid West Point commandant said, "Well, I don't think it would be appropriate. You better have your team come in civilian clothes." So we said, "For God's sake, go down to West Point in civilian clothes? What the heck? We have some pride left." So the commandant said, we just cancel the trip this year. The quartermaster stores had 200 pairs of catgut snowshoes and rawhide moccasins to go with them. And we were all issued, as part of our initial kit, a pair of long red stockings that came up the top of our legs, and a 5-foot-long red sash that would tie around so it looked like a real Hamadal snowshoer, and a red and white toque. And of course, we had all our turtleneck sweaters. We were each issued a couple of those. Nothing in the way of a shin boxing. We had boxing, compulsory boxing in first year. And I made the mistake of making the semifinal. Well, I guess I could make the final in my first year. Then in the second year, they didn't have anybody to compete in that class against one of the big husky recruits. So I had to fight this guy, Herb Langdon, subsequent friend, who was a TCS grad, and he was a really good boxer. And he knocked everybody else out in the preliminary bouts. He didn't knock me out, but he really gave me a hard time. And he and I were subsequently classmates at Osgood through law school. So he never let me forget the fact that he beat me in the boxing ring. At parade ground drill, we were magnificent on the parade square. The Grenadier Guards were nothing on us. When you see I don't go to the college parades anymore. It just just makes me cry to see the sort of stuff that they got away with. When someone said, who was it put the there was a brainstorm, who put the slugs in the telephones? And everybody said, I did. And the one voicemail took one step forward. So the staff agent just threw his hands up and walked away. But the German one, I captured a German one, we actually got the whole OP. His shells were all metal, some kind of white metal. The red ones were milled all the way around. The green ones were only milled halfway, and the white ones were plain. So in the dark, you didn't need to worry they could be underwater. They would still go in the gun, and you could tell which was which in the dark. Because the only way I had to keep my red and green by separate pockets. It's wonder we won the war with things like that. And these made in Canada Browning pistols were made on a Browning patent, and they were the same 9mm pattern that's still popular today with the underworld, I think. And if you held it up like that and shook it, it would rattle. The tolerances were about 10 thou. Captured a German one that was Fabrique en Armes de Guerre Belgique, which was the original, made in the original Browning factory, for God's sake. And it was a beautiful thing, about 2 tolerances. You used very thin oil to grease it. My first activity was with the Royal Regiment of Canada at Ytreville, which was their baptism of fire, and was quite a vicious battle there. We were up against, I think it was the German 12th SS Panzer Division, which their name was the Hitlerjugend Division, and they actually were recruited largely from Hitlerjugend. We had these fanatic 18-year-old punks that they'd come out to surrender with their arms up in the air. They have one of those little tiny German egg grenades in each hand. We were able to check most of the first counterattacks, and this is where I was firing the SOS with the German pistol. And do their players look the same as ours? And sure enough, they do. Their red, their green are the same as our red and green, and it's just rather odd that both armies would use the same 2 flare colors. Highly visible, I guess. So I don't know why they gave me the Military Cross, but these infantry guys were kind of thin on the ground, and my guys, we had 1 Bren gun and 3 rifles, so we were able to add to the firepower, and we got big tins of what they call boiled sweets in our compo. So they were all scared green, and their first battle, so I wandered around the position with 10 of these boiled sweets, and my rifle slung across over my back, and gave me each a couple of candies, and they didn't have, no food was getting up. Tried to act as casual as possible, so I thought handing out candies might take their mind off their troubles, and I don't know whether you get an MC for handing out candies or not. I got quite badly wounded the second attack on the village of Verrières, so I guess I was quite lucky that we had right-hand drive carriers. In all our years in England, of course, we were driving on the left-hand side of the road, but that meant that when I hit a mine, it was my driver that got it instead of me. And also, we'd had so many casualties from mines that then we put a layer of sandbags in the bottom of all our vehicles, and I had the layer in mind. I was picking sand out of my legs for 20 years after the war. Yes. I was good point, Ed. I was adjutant of the 4th Field Regiment. I was a troop commander, and then I was made adjutant. And when I was adjutant, the CO, the 2 IC, the 3 battery commanders, and me, and one of the battery captains were all RMC graduates. We learned an awful lot about teamwork at RMC. We learned that you don't abandon your friends, and the old truth, duty, valor thing may sound a little corny, but in those days it was a reasonable motto. And we still told the odd lie, but cheated the telephone company, but we still had the valor.
Right.
And you sort of felt that more was expected of you as an ex-cadet than the ordinary civilian soldier who would join the army for the war. You were a professional soldier, and you were expected to take the dirty end of the stick. So that's what prepared us. That